Hey, Pastor Julian here with Central's Devotion for today. I hope you're doing well. Well, Valentine's Day is only 2 days away, and Valentine's Day is a celebration of love. Love. You know, God is love, and we are called to love Him with all of our hearts, all of our minds, all of our soul, and all of our strength, and we're called to love our neighbors as ourselves. But as we think about this celebration of love, there is no greater celebration of love than a wedding celebration. And yesterday I talked to you about the miracle that Jesus did in Cana at a wedding that Mary was invited to, Jesus' mom, and him and his disciples were invited to, and that they attended. They attended this wonderful wedding celebration. People were drinking wine, and the wine ran out. And Mary, noticing that this embarrassing thing had happened, that there is no more wine at this celebration, nudged Jesus and was trying to get him to do something about this. And Jesus did do something about it. And we're going to read about that today. But Mary, at the end of our devotion yesterday, before Jesus goes and does anything about it, she turns to the servants at this wedding celebration and says to them, do whatever he tells you. Do whatever he tells you. And I want to take a closer look at this. What did the servants do? What happens in the next part of this story? So let's take a look at the Gospel of John, chapter 2, verses 6 to 11. Now there were 6 stone jars there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast. So they took it, and when the master of the feast tasted the water now become wine, the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, everyone serves the good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you've kept the good wine until now. This was the first of his signs Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and the disciples believed in him. So, here are 6 stone jars there for the Jewish rites of purification. Now, this is the jar that I had picked up in Cana of Galilee, but I saw one of the jars that were filled up. These things were enormous. They were huge, and they were stone. They were super heavy. It's not like you took this thing out and you dunked it and you get... No, and they didn't have hoses where they could just put a hose in there and fill her up. So this was a lot of work that they had to do to fill up all 6 stone jars. That is a lot of work. 6 of these huge stone jars, they have to go and fetch water and fill them up. Now, each of them, it says, holds 20 or 30 gallons. That is a lot of water. That's a lot of water. If you think of like a water cooler, that's 5 gallons right there. So just imagine how much water it took to fill these up. And also, how much wine did that make? I made a lot of wine. So these servants had to do a lot of work. They listened to Jesus, did what he said, and it required a lot of work. Then Jesus asked them to draw some out and take it to the master of the feast. The servants just poured water into these big vats. They're not thinking, oh, it's wine now. I mean, why would they? And so Jesus wants them to take some water to the master of the feast. What kind of reaction is there going to be? I mean, the master of the feast could get agitated, they could get angry, they could be embarrassed. And yet, when they take it to the master of the feast, is when they realize they have been part of an incredible miracle. They brought this water to the master of the feast, but it wasn't water. It was wine, and not just wine, but the greatest wine ever. the best wine. And so this was an incredible occurrence, all because those servants listened and did what Jesus told them to do. Now, when you do what Jesus tells you to do, sometimes it's going to be a lot of hard work. Sometimes it's going to be risky. It could be an embarrassing situation. There's risk involved. Maybe things don't turn out the way you think. But this is all part of doing what Jesus tells you to do. And when you do that, you can become part of a great miracle like this. But you see what happens. They're part of this miracle. But you see what happens as a result of the miracle. It says, and his disciples believed him. They saw this incredible thing that happened, that Jesus used these servants and made water into wine. And the disciples, Jesus' disciples, who I guess at this point did not have a full grasp of how great Jesus was and how unique and special and divine he was, now they believed him. So do what Jesus tells you, let Jesus use you, and you will see others believe in Jesus. God bless you and have a great day.